What's up, guys? Today we're gonna work on T-spine mobility through 6 different drills. The only equipment you're gonna need for today is a foam roller, a PVC pipe, optional mat, and a bench too. Now, the important thing about T-spine mobility is that our upper back and our spine help us to position our shoulders. So for example, if we don't have enough shoulder upward rotation and overhead motion, our T-spine can help us get there by extending. If our T-spine won't extend enough, that's gonna cause a problem with overhead pressing or anything in the overhead position. So T-spine mobility is extremely important and extremely helpful. Remember, your upper back, your scapula, your shoulder blade help to deliver the shoulder and the arm position. The first movement we're gonna do today is a foam roller prayer stretch. So I'm gonna be sitting back into my knees. And when I sit back into my knees and my hips, it helps to flex my lower spine. So when my lower spine is flexed, that helps to inhibit global spinal extension. If I can lock down my lower spine, I'm not gonna compensate as much, right? We don't wanna arch our back while we're doing these movements. So the first movement, I've got my hands about shoulder width apart. My thumbs are pointed up. That's an important part here because when your thumbs are pointed up, you're externally rotating the shoulders. That's gonna help to put the lats on stretch. Remember, our lats are strong internal rotators. So if your hands are internally rotated, you're not gonna be stretching your lats very much. So thumbs up, hands about shoulder width apart, maybe a little wider. And I'm just getting a big reach overhead and then coming back up. You really wanna think about elongating and reaching through your spine. Reach out as far as you can. And then come back up. Another thing you can do is try to exhale as you're getting that reach. Just reach as far as you can, reach, exhale, pause for 1 or 2 seconds, and then come back to your base position. I like to do these at the beginning of a training session or a workout, so kind of in that warm-up category. The second movement we're gonna do is a bench PVC overhead mobilization. So I'm gonna use the pad again. I've got my knees on the pad and I've got my hands about shoulder width apart. So my hands are slightly, or my shoulders are slightly externally rotated here. If they were internally rotated, my elbows would flare. And you're gonna notice on me especially, because I have pretty poor external rotation overall, my elbows are more likely to flare. So I'm gonna try to not do that, try to not cheat and not compensate. I'm just lining up here so I can get my elbows kind of even on this section of the bench. And all I'm gonna do is sit back into my hips and stretch overhead. When I sit back into my hips and stretch overhead, I'm also paying attention to the position of my spine. So just like on the prayer stretch on the ground, we don't want our spine to be overly extended as we go through that movement. So watch as we demonstrate a couple reps here. Just sitting back. And then coming forward. Now, another factor to consider here is the length of your triceps. If the long head of your triceps is pretty tight, because that's the head that crosses the shoulder joint, that's also going to limit or potentially limit overhead mobility. So we're gonna kind of wanna work into that entire motion. Now let's say your arms, or let's say your overhead mobility is better when your arm is straight, but then when you start to bend your elbow, it decreases. That's gonna signify tightness or restriction in the long head of your triceps. So I like to use this motion for maybe 5 or 6 reps, exhale at the bottom of each one as I'm sitting back into the stretch. Now we're gonna flow right from that into our third motion, and that's just your Spine Cat Camel. So I'm gonna have my hands directly underneath my shoulders, and all I'm doing is retracting my shoulder blades and then pushing away from the ground as high as I can. So we're just trying to take our shoulder blades and our scapulothoracic joint. Some people refer to your shoulder blades and your thorax as a joint. I want to take those through their full range of motion. Now at the top of that motion, we're really engaging the serratus anterior. Those are the muscles that help to wrap around your shoulder blades and then around the rib cage. They help the shoulder blades to protract and upwardly rotate. So we just go through this for about 10 reps. It's really not a lot going on there. That's just one of those movements that's nice to take your shoulder blades through the entire motion. The next movement we're gonna do is our sideline open book or rotation, and that's with a foam roller. So I'm gonna be laying on my side, and I'm gonna have my top knee on the roller. Hands are even here. Another couple things we're thinking about, my bottom leg is in extension here. So my bottom leg isn't up close to the roller, it's back in extension. And that's gonna lock down my hips to a certain extent. When I have that tension, that torque across my hips, one hip's flexed, the other hip's extended, that's gonna lock down my hips and low back. And then I'm just gonna open up and try to get a big stretch. I'll take a big breath. Exhale. And see if I can't get a little bit more motion. Now I already went through a whole set of this before we filmed this now, so I'm a little bit looser than I was initially. But to give you an idea, on the first rep or two, like I was probably around here. And then as I exhale, breathe, try to relax those muscles, I can open up a little bit more. And I'm sure some of you keen observers noticed that my knee started to lift off the roller here. If your knee's lifting off the roller, then you're not staying tight through the lower body. If you really want to isolate that stretch on the upper spine, try to keep your knee in contact with the roller. We've got 2 more movements to go here, and we're pretty much gonna stay in the same place. We're gonna use the pad for the last 2. First one is thread the needle. So I'm back in that quadruped position, hands under the shoulders, and we're just reaching across. Now if you watch, I'm gonna kind of creep my hands, try to reach a little further, and then almost grab onto the ground and pull away. So I'm creating this traction force through my shoulder blades as I grab and pull. Watch as I do this on the other side. I'm gonna reach through, and I'm pulling away. What we're doing when we pull away is we're stretching the posterior capsule of our shoulder, our whole rear delt tie-in area. We're also adducting, or rather abducting, pulling the scapula away from midline. So we're stretching our rhomboids and those muscles in between the medial border of your scap and your spine. So I'll show you guys a few more alternating thread the needles, and then we'll move on to our last movement. Try that same cadence with your breathing where you reach, exhale, reach a little more. Reach, exhale. And just get a little bit more motion. Then our last one for today is the thoracic extension and rotation. And we're gonna start by doing this with my hand behind my head. So I'm already putting my shoulder into an external rotation position. And then from there, hands on the ground, rotating up and away. So this is, in essence, the opposite of a thread the needle. Thread the needle, we were flexing through the spine, now we're extending. Now the thoracic spine is by default in a flexed or kyphotic position. So extending the thoracic spine, as we're doing right here, is working against your natural positioning. It's gonna be a little bit bigger stretch overall, might be a little bit less comfortable too. So I'm gonna reach my elbow down to my hand, and then open up nice and wide. If you feel like shoulder external rotation is a limiting factor for you, just reach with your hand. So you can just reach that hand and then come down. I'll typically do these all on one side and then all on the other, whereas open book, same way, but thread the needle rather, we're gonna alternate back and forth. Thanks for watching our Meathead yoga routine. If you guys like this, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. The list for the exercises are in the comments section. Thanks again for watching.